Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of the Valaery Rose Show. I'm your host, Valaery Rose, and today's episode is going to be a powerful one. It's all about Latina women in entrepreneurship, and we're going to be talking about building, leading, and breaking barriers. So, not only are we going to be sharing the real challenges, but the real wins and how entrepreneurship is not all about the income, but as well empowerment. And I'm going to do that today with a lovely guest who is a Latina in a male dominated industry, who is a commercial insurance broker in California with 10 years of experience in that field. Her background is claims management, and she helps construction and staff agencies with their compliance. Help me welcome Rocio Luna.
Thank you so much for having me, Valaery.
Absolutely.
Super excited. I was, I've been following you. I want to say 2 to 3 years. When I know you
Ooh,
were
quite
one of
some
my
time,
first
yeah.
followers when I started my Instagram page. So when you reached out to me, I was like, dude, I'm so excited because I
Oh.
love the empowerment. I love the messages. Everything you've been doing is very loving and feminine. So I love that.
Oh, thank you so much. I truly appreciate that. And when I was thinking, as I was sharing with you earlier, I kind of like have the episodes planned out where I know I'm going to do a bunch in bulk. So then I start thinking of people that I've been seeing on social media that I follow or people that I end up meeting in person. And you definitely came to mind because, as those beautiful words as you shared with me, I always got that vibe from you too. And I remember seeing comments where you just tell me beautiful words and I'd see the work that you're doing. And it's so powerful to see you in an industry that is totally male dominated. So I'm like, she's going to be the perfect person to bring onto the podcast to show how a lovely Latina woman can be so educated, so passionate in an industry that is dominated by men. And you just do it so effortlessly. And you seem super knowledgeable. So I'm excited for you to share all of that today. So I want to start off with, how did your journey enter into entrepreneurship and the field that you're in right now?
Yeah. So I'm glad you brought up the fact that it's a male dominant, and to the viewers, it's actually was not that easy.
I
It was
bet.
not easy. And being a Hispanic, brown, so for the people that don't know, the
Um,
insurance is commercial insurance is usually dominated by white males. So when I first started off, I was a claims assistant,
okay.
and I grew up and was raised in Santa Ana,
Ooh,
Orange
same like
County.
I was too.
And my first job was at Huntington Beach. And back this like back 10, yeah, 12, yeah, 10 years ago. Yeah, 10 years ago. And so where I was at, it was Beach Boulevard. And back in the day, there wasn't really much Hispanics, or at least in that office, there was not many.
Mhm.
So I definitely did feel like, um, how do you call it? Like that culture shock.
Right.
I definitely felt the culture shock. None of my parents ever went to college. My dad was a
Mhm.
truck driver. My mom was a stay-at-home mom. I was raised by my aunt, and she came from Mexico. So it was all like, hard work and so forth. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna do my best to be good at the claims management.
Mhm.
And then I was like, okay, one day I want to become a salesperson because I saw how much money they were making. I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
I want to do that,
Mhm.
and all of that. But for me to get to that spot, I actually had to go through so many tunnels. Like I had to prove myself over and over again. And not even that, like I actually got paid below the minimum, well, not minimum wage, but I got paid below um, what my other colleagues were doing being males.
Yeah.
And because I was young, I was 22, so
Mhm.
I just accepted it because I was
Yeah.
I was happy that I had a full time job and
Right.
an opportunity. But as I started to get my feet in the door and seeing, I'm like, wait, there's a big gap between women and men,
Mhm.
and I know I always told myself, like, when I get older, I'm gonna speak up for women and the women of color, women who want to come up, because I know how hard it is, and
Yeah.
I know all those hurdles, and just being, showing them that it is possible,
Right.
but also connecting the dots. Like, there's don't feel disqualified, especially if you don't come from that background.
Right.
Because I remember when I was 24 years old and I told my manager, I'm like, hey, I want to become a salesperson, a
Mhm.
producer. And he asked me, he's like, well, that sounds great, but what do your parents do? And I was like, oh, my dad's a truck
Mhm.
driver. My mom's a stay at home mom. He's like, okay, do your parents have any business owner friends? And I'm like, no. He's like, you guys have any bank friends? And I was like, no. And then he's like, do you have any HR friends? And I was like, no. And he's like, He's like, you see how you're answering my questions? I was like, yeah. He's like, you don't have anyone to go to for businesses. So if your family, your friends don't run businesses, it's going to be very hard for you to talk to business owners and get and network with them because you're not part of that class. And that's how you told me.
Wow, that is so wrong because he's like not valuing who you are instead of like who do you know because that's how you're gonna get forward, which we know isn't
Yeah.
true. Yeah.
But I also did, I took it like, okay, you know what? You're 100% right. Like, I don't know anyone.
Yeah.
I need to go out there and meet people. So for me, that kind of just sparked the thing. I did take it like, I'm like, okay. But the way he said it, and because he was white too, he was a little prejudiced. The way he said it, it was just like, all right, well, you need to get, experience and you need to do a lot. But he's like, it's going to be really hard for you. But when he told me that, I was like, okay, what I need to do is make connections and make relationships. Right. And I remember when I was my first year in sales, I kind of had repeat that message. It was like a repeat in my head because I was like, I'm going to show this guy. Yeah. I'm going to show this guy. And, here I am now.
Wow, that sounds very challenging. How did you end up getting through that, knowing that this is how he perceived you and you kind of feel like the odds are against you, but you decided to still pave the way forward? Like, how did you take care of yourself and motivate yourself during those times?
Yeah. So I was 24 years old and everybody was 30 and older in that office. So I had to prove myself. So I was always there early. If I was able to leave late, I would leave late. But I was really like, I'm going to get so good that I'm like, there has to be, I don't want anything to be like, oh, well, you didn't get it because of this. So I was like, I have to mark every little X, like make sure that I'm good. But with that, it comes self-development, right? So I learned to develop myself early on from fire and anger, which at 29, I'm 32. At 29, I realized that wasn't the way to do it because, I was young and I was really motivated. But I was more of like, all right, I'm going to show these people, prove them wrong. But as you start to grow and you start to do business, it's like you see that anger and frustration is not the lead emotion. Right. It comes from the heart. Yep. So then once you start seeing, okay, like your heart is love is greater than this. And so if I start doing my business and treating relationships more like love, then that's the way to grow it. Yeah. And I got that epiphany like at age 29.
Wow, I love that. Now we're going to juggle the Rocio from present and past. What would you say is the difference that you saw in the past with those relationships that were built off of the frustration and the motivator being like anger and I'm going to prove this person wrong and I'm going to be this person, to now looking back and being like, you know what, I did that, but I decided to build these relationships through the love and the passion that I have to ultimately become the person that you wanted to be when you were in your early 20s and now being that woman?
So the difference that I saw between, younger Rocio and older Rocio right now, when the relationships that were built, it was definitely more, I would say, trying to prove myself. Right. Because again, I was younger. Yeah. So I always felt like, all right, I got to show this employer that I know my things, and I was always on top of it. Yeah. But even my tonality, so like it would be more of that aggression, like pressure, like, okay, yeah, we're gonna get this done, like we're gonna do this, I got this done. Yeah. It was always like quick speed. Right. Now it's more okay, calm, like I know what's going on and this is what's this. But also now as being older, I navigate people's emotions because I know how fearful and scary it is to get a lawsuit. So it's like, all right, calm down. I know I've been through this, been doing this 10 years. This is what's going to go on. And we walk you down the process. This is the action plan. This. If things start going sideways, don't go our way, then I will apply the pressure. Yeah. And doing that, but it's more of like we were talking earlier, it's the emotions, right? Because everybody has emotions. Yeah. But it's knowing how to be, like your book over here, stoic. Yeah. So you have to learn how to interpret it and how to portray it, because when you're working with people, you have a team, you
Right.
can't be yelling at people.
Yeah.
And that's something I learned from my first boss. He used to yell, like that guy would yell from the top of his lungs, turn red,
Oh
and just
my
go,
goodness.
ah, like it would be bad. It was,
Dang.
and you know what? And that for me was normal because I came from a chaotic home. So when I, when I tell people my experience
Yeah.
and things are like, oh my God, that's such a toxic workplace. Yeah, it
Mhm.
was. But for me, I thought it was normal. And I was like, I just got to prove myself. This is whatever,
Mhm.
like,
You're like, "This ain't no thing.
yeah,
I'm straight."
this
Yeah.
is easy.
Mhm.
This is a
Yep.
piece of cake.
Yep.
But I saw, the type of the culture of
Yeah.
how to treat your employees, and also working with different people,
Right.
picking up the culture, leading with love
Yeah.
versus being an author, being like this person in control.
Right.
And if you don't like it, we chop your head off.
Yeah. And you see, you bring up your first boss and you said you learned from him. So would you say he was like the perfect example of this is what not to do? Instead, I'm going to do the opposite and lead with love. Is that what you mean? Or did you learn other things that were positive as well? Or was it
Oh yeah,
more
no.
okay?
So one thing I did learn from them
Hmm.
is definitely the discipline, because they were very motive, like
Yeah.
money driven.
Okay.
So the hustle, the grit of like
Right.
getting things done,
Yeah.
finding the way no matter what, like no matter how many rocks you got to turn around, you got
Yeah.
to create a new door, go do
Yeah.
it. So I did learn that from them, but I also saw the way they treated people, and that's why many people didn't last. They would come in and out, and I was like, okay, I don't want to do that, And I also do think there's a difference between maybe females, because
Right.
we have our intuition,
Right.
so we kind of care about people around us,
Yeah.
versus I think men, 'cause it's natural for them to just be like, okay, like no, like logic. And
Right.
for us, we're more like emotion, making
That's
sure
true.
that the whole team's good,
Right.
asking like, hey, are you okay? Do you need help? That
I
type of
love
stuff.
that. And it's nice that you have that skill. And I applaud you, girl, for your emotional intelligence because you're right. I think a lot of people don't have that. And that is something that I'm working on myself. I've said the last thing I need to master in this life is emotional control because when something happens to us, the way we respond really affects the outcome, the way we get through that situation overall. So, would you say that that emotional intelligence came to you early on because of like your own willpower or because you constantly saw the emotions of the clients that were leaving the company that was serving them because they didn't feel welcomed or because there was anger or hostility?
Yeah, definitely. The emotion part, I would even say like trace it back to my childhood.
Yeah.
So I was very like, because of childhood trauma,
Right.
I was more observant and
Mhm.
seeing, okay, I was sensitive to people's reactions and I
Mhm.
could see it. But knowing how to, yeah, I guess like seeing like, I don't want to make someone feel uncomfortable just
Mhm.
because the way I feel,
Yeah.
if something's going bad, I'd rather just say, okay, this is going bad. I'm going to handle it, instead of cussing someone out,
Yeah.
saying, hey, this is
Yeah.
all your fault. Look at
Right.
this. You're, so and so. Like,
Yeah.
there's no need to cross that line to call someone another name or even give them like a nasty look.
Right.
Because sometimes we don't say anything, but the way we look, we look at people,
Mhm.
or our energy when we walk in the door, it's
Right.
like, okay, I don't want to be that person. I want to be like,
Mhm.
oh, she's in a bad mood, don't talk to her.
Yeah.
I want everybody to know that you could always come in, whether I'm having a bad day or a
Yeah.
good day. You are comfortable enough to come to me,
Right.
because my emotions don't care. Like, the goal is to make sure that you are okay and that we're leading the whole team.
I love that. I love the vibes where you're so welcoming, very neutral, because when you
Yes.
get a client that comes in and they're upset or they're scared because of something happened with an employee, it seems like you can help bring
Oh
them
yeah.
down to baseline. So I would love to know what had like I'm sure you've had clients that tell you like, "Oh my gosh, Rocio, because of your emotional control or because of the way you explain a situation or walk them through that they feel good." So what are some like real life examples that you've gotten from clients about how much they love and admire the way you make them feel in working with them?
Yeah, so definitely. So I deal with contractors, and
Okay.
never know if people have dealt with contractors.
Mhm.
Usually, majority of them are hot-headed, logic. They want things quick
Yeah.
now, and when you're running a company and you get a lawsuit that's going to cost you $100,000 out of pocket, or you don't have the right coverage,
Right.
it's easy to hit the button and panic.
Yeah.
and get mad. Um, so I've had several discussions where I've been able to de-escalate the situation,
Mhm.
say, okay, no, we're not going to do that. We're not going to fire anyone. I know you're
Mhm.
mad,
Yep.
but that's not the way to do it. You fire them, you're going to get sued for another thing. So don't do that. Don't mention anything. And just walking them down the plan. Okay, this is what's going to happen. We're going to do this. And just being like, just assertive and
Right.
confident, saying, okay,
Mhm.
this is what's going to go on. Very few times do I have to some days go remind them, like, okay, you're getting out of line. Like
Yeah.
that's when I'm hearing too
Yeah.
much chaos, and I'm like, okay, I'll say that, and then
Right.
we'll bring it back.
Yep.
But just making sure it's like, okay, like this is what the strategy is.
Yeah. I'm amazed by hearing everything that you say. So I could only imagine these men that are very masculine,
Yes.
used to working with men on the other end, but then here they are working with this beautiful woman that is emotionally controlled, very knowledgeable. I'm sure it does make them feel good. And not only are you helping them with their business and educating them and serving the people that they serve, but you're also teaching them that look at you're dealing with the woman and this works out. You don't have to deal with the man only. And you're also teaching them emotional control. So I think it's such a win-win all around. And you're not only helping them with their claims or insurance, but I think it really goes beyond that. Do you feel that?
Yeah. And then, for some of my clients, I work with their wife. I
Oh,
also love,
cool.
yeah, because there's some that I work with their wife,
Yeah.
and they're in there, and I really do appreciate when, because there's some men, like there's some machistas.
Yeah.
There's some who are like, absolutely not, or like it's very hard to get through them, and that's just the way
Right.
they're raised.
Hmm.
But then there's the ones that are empowered and are like, okay, like this is what I'm gonna. These are the tool sets. I love seeing, my wife here taking control,
Yeah.
and that's why oftentimes the people in operations are women, just because it's easier for them to navigate and to, and I think we're really good at multitasking too. I
Hmm.
think that's why there's another reason for that.
Oh, yeah, that definitely helps out a lot. Oh my goodness, I love that. This is all good stuff. Now, how did you enter entrepreneurship with your insurance claims company? So, do you have like a partnership with someone? Is it your own business? How do you go about that?
Yeah, so I was forced into entrepreneurship. So I was just a
What?
salesperson,
Okay.
and the agency that I used to work for, they decided to sell their agency, and they told everybody 1 week before. They're like,
Okay.
"Hey, by the way, guys, we're selling. If you guys want to leave, go ahead. If you want to transfer over, that's fine, but you guys need a plan." And
Such
I was
short
just,
notice.
yeah. And I was like, "What?" And I, panicked.
Right.
And the other agency did want me, but I was like, look at this. Like, what if this happens 10 years from now? And I have
Mhm.
kids. I don't have any kids right now. But I just thought about the future, my
Mhm.
future kids. And I'm like, I'm going to be 40 years old. I'm going to have no job. Everything that I worked for taken away from me.
Right.
And I'm going to have two mouths to feed. Like,
Yeah.
I can't let that happen.
Mhm.
So I was like, what do I do? All right, let me
Yeah.
start my business. And it's still a rocky road, but it's definitely like everything was so quick. I was like,
Mhm.
I need to get this because I have clients that need my attention and
Right.
things need to roll out. So all of that was like just forced, and then I went with it. And then yes, there was a partnership, but I actually had a partnership, the
Okay.
first one,
Mhm.
and it went bad. You talk about bad partnerships.
Yeah.
I have experienced a couple, but that one was like the legit one where
Yeah.
there was going to be a contract, and we tried it out. And I'm glad we did try it out,
Yeah.
because if I would have fully went in with signing and getting the lawyers and all of that, it would have been really bad,
Right.
because the work ethic that I had wasn't
Mhm.
what they were.
Right.
They wanted to build off me while they took off at 3 p.m.,
Yeah, and that's not fair.
had the Fridays off,
Mhm.
and I have to take care of everybody.
Yeah, that is not
So,
okay. Wow,
yeah.
that is really interesting
And same
because
thing, they were
yeah.
men. They were men.
You see, so they were trying to see like, let's see how much, like, how far we can go of taking advantage of her. But you stood your ground, you put your foot down, and you're like, no, this is, I'm not okay with this, and we're gonna move forward this way, or go our
Yeah.
own separate ways. And it's very inspiring to see that you decided to go the entrepreneurial route because just as you mentioned, it's a rocky road, and I think it's like that all the time. It has its ups, it has its downs, its stability, but what matters is wanting to persevere. And you had options, girl. You could have left, you could have started a whole other career, you could have just went to go work for another company, but you thought so far out into the future, which is a really good thing. And I think a lot of it is confidence. Would you say that your
Yes.
confidence in just seeing all the shit you went through from starting that career to that moment where things came crashing down because it was out of your control. And 1 week notice that you're like, you know what, I'm going to start my own thing. You have to
Yeah.
be really confident to be able to say that and do that, or, just fearful.
Well, I think it was more fear at the time because I had an offer
Okay.
that they were going to buy my book for $10,000. And I was like, dude, my book is worth way more than $10,000. Like, I'm not going to, like I've been working 2 years hard for
Mhm.
this and I'm just going to have it, get it taken away from me.
Yeah.
And you talk about confidence. Yes, it's confidence. It's also, all the bad times that I've been
Yeah.
let down. And,
Mhm.
when you're younger, you're naive. And
Yeah.
same thing as a woman, you learn, you're a little scared because you're
Right.
younger and you don't want to speak up in front of men.
Right.
But then there comes a point where like, all right, I had enough. Like
Yeah.
enough is enough. And
Mhm.
if I look back a year ago to when I broke my partnership with those men,
Yeah.
if I hadn't had gone through all of that, I probably wouldn't have had the guts to tell them like, I don't like this.
Right.
I'm gonna walk away. But I was just like, I've gone through this so many times.
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm not dumb. And I just like you. This
Mhm.
isn't aligned. We're not aligned and we're
Right.
just gonna break apart.
And what was their response when you would say something like that to someone who wasn't in alignment with you?
So obviously they always tell like, hey, we're gonna fix it.
Right.
Don't leave.
Right.
But we already had kind of like bumps ahead. It wasn't
Right.
just like they pulled the rug. No, they already had shown signs. And I just didn't like it.
Mhm.
And I was like, hey, if there's one more thing that comes up, I'm pulling the rug. And I was,
Yep.
yeah. So
But that's a good thing. You see, you set your boundary. You're like, I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt. We're going to try one more time. Yeah, a ver qué pasa.
mhm.
And then,
Same thing with relationships
yeah.
too. I'm married, but like every other
Mhm.
girl, you've had your breakups, you
Right.
had your bad relationships,
Oh, yeah.
and that's because of boundaries, and also
Right.
because you didn't heal yourself. So you're kind of taking all this baggage,
Yeah.
and you expect the other person to work with you,
Yep.
but then you look back and you're like, I was the problem.
Hmm.
I
I
it
think we
was
talked about this over social media one time. Oh my gosh, you're right. Yeah. That is so true. So you really have to work on yourself to be a much stronger individual, respond differently, know yourself. So I absolutely love that. I would have never known you were married because I always see like business stuff on your page. So that's really nice to know.
so I have a personal page and I have a business page.
Ooh, okay. Why
So
don't we follow
follow
the
you. I'll follow you on my
Okay.
personal. So my personal doesn't have much because I've kept my business page. But
Yeah.
okay, so let me tell you. Let's
Tell
go
me,
back.
tell me. Yeah.
The reason why I made it different, it's
Mhm.
because my personal page, I had friends from high school and college, and
Got
Rocio
it.
that you see today, it was not Rocio
Yeah.
from 10
Hey,
years
I
ago.
think we all have that
That was
type
not
of
Rocio.
password.
That was not Rocio. Rocio, I always tell everybody, Rocio is a
Yeah.
big chaos. She was a mess. Um, in high school, I was a chaotic child, but I would say things really got bad between ages 19 till almost early 22. I was hanging out with the wrong crowd. I was doing bad things. You would look at me, you'd be like, okay, this girl's not going to get anywhere. Um, so the people that had been, my followers were people who were partying and things.
Yeah.
And I was like, no, not even my family followed me when I first built my business page
Okay.
because they were like, okay, this girl's like, she's not going to get anywhere, or like it's a new thing. But that's why I kept it separate. I was like, all right, I'm going
Mhm.
to start this whole thing, and
Yeah.
people that I built it off, it's going to be business related and so forth. But yeah.
And you completely reinvented yourself. And thank you so much for sharing that because when I see you, I see a beautiful Latina professional woman. But just like you said, you had your experiences in the past, and I can totally relate to that. And as you're mentioning it, I'm like, shit, I was a crazy little youngin in high school. And even from like 19 to like my early 20s as well. Like we all have our past, and it doesn't define us, but it does build us in who we are. And you did mention that you made that page and you didn't have like friends and family supporting you. Would you say that now they're much more supportive, seeing like a whole turnaround and seeing you reinvent yourself? Because
Oh
that's a
yeah.
motivation to them, you know?
Most definitely. It's
Yeah.
like, oh shoot. I even came
Yeah.
to God. I was
Yeah.
So I wasn't born raised religious or any
Okay.
of that
Yeah.
stuff. That's
Tell me.
another part of my life. But
Yeah.
back to who Rocio was
Yeah.
earlier. This happens a lot with people that experience childhood trauma
Right.
or people that come from chaotic homes.
Right.
You seek love in the wrong places.
Right.
So you'll seek it with someone else who's chaotic as you are.
Right.
And then you notice that everybody around you is drowning themselves in alcohol or using drugs to kind of like forget themselves because they don't want to deal with themselves, with their problems.
Right.
So instead they mask it and they'll, go partying and
Yeah.
do all that. But I realized early on that that life was empty. And I was just like everything around me was like everything's fake. Like everything's so fake. Like
Yeah.
you guys, nobody cares about anyone
Mhm.
here. No one wants anything here. You guys just kind of want to like screw each other over
Yeah.
in a sense. And I was like, this isn't for me. And then also negativity
Yeah.
breeds more negativity.
Right.
So I was just like, I don't want to be part of this. I don't want to continue doing this. So
Yeah.
I'm going to go on my own and heal myself.
Right.
And that's when I went into the insurance phase.
Okay.
So literally like when that happened, and I also had broken up with my ex-boyfriend and we had a very bad relationship. It was good in the beginning, but it was definitely controlling. Everything that I would tell a girl to walk away from, that's what my relationship was. And that's why when I hear certain things, or know things, I'm like, walk away.
Yeah.
I know it hurts,
Right.
but it's for your own safety.
Right.
And you don't want to teach your future children that this is okay.
Absolutely. And I love that you mentioned that because we normalize it, and because even I was in a toxic relationship before, so I totally know what you're talking about. And when we get into it, it feels good, and there's just so much familiarity and comfortability because we come from chaotic homes. So to us, it's normal. But then as time goes on, I realized this isn't what makes me happy. Like I'm just here to feel loved or assume that this person loves me and cares for me. But deep down, I know that they're disrespecting me. They're doing all kinds of crazy things. They're bringing out the crazy in me. And this is not the type of relationship that I want to have, or this is not the relationship that I envision that Valerie's like, oh my gosh, this is like happily ever after. So would you say that because of your past as well, that when you were in that relationship, that it was a lot of familiarity with how you grew up?
Yeah, I would definitely say I felt
Okay.
safe.
Yeah.
So in the beginning, I felt safe. I was like, no one's ever gonna hurt me.
Yeah.
We're building, we're doing this together.
Yeah.
But also like when the jealousy, at first I thought being jealous of you, being controlling, they just love you.
Yeah. Or
They're
it's
like,
cute.
yeah, it's cute. They
Yeah.
love me. He doesn't want to see me. I get it,
Yeah.
but there's also when people take it overboard
Right.
and like no one could talk to you.
Yeah.
Or if you even turn around or say something like, "Oh, you're cheating on me,"
Right.
and you start, but then you notice that they'll use that because they're doing it themselves.
Yeah.
So they make you
Mhm.
feel like you're the bad person,
Yeah.
and they're the victim, and
Yeah.
then you're kind of stuck in this whole thing, like trying to prove yourself, like, "Oh
Right.
no, I'm not doing anything. Please love me. Please love
Yep.
me."
But
And
they're
it's
over
like,
there doing all that.
yes, and then they'll give it to you, and it's a take and give,
Right.
right? It's kind of like narcissism.
Yeah.
So
Exactly.
then, you feel bad, but then they'll gift you or they'll come in and lovey pooey, and you're like, oh,
Yeah.
it's good. And then
Mhm.
it's gone all of a sudden.
Yep. Oh my goodness. Crazy stuff. But I'm super happy to know that you ultimately got out of that. You took the learning lessons, and now you even share with women when you see signs like, girl, you got to go, or
Yes.
that's a red flag. And would you be open to sharing differences from that toxic relationship, which I'm sure was many, many years ago, to now your marriage? And the point with this is to show, like, hey, you went through all this stuff. You've dealt with the toxicity, but it is possible to find your person, to be happy and healthy. So would you be open to sharing like
Yes.
your
And I'm
relationship
very
now?
open with it. So it's been 10 years. So that
Mhm.
relationship ended when I was 22
Okay.
and I'm 32 now. I've been with
Mhm.
my husband 6 years, married 3 years.
Aw.
But when I ended that relationship, I actually went on like I wasn't talking to anyone.
Yeah.
Like I wanted to heal myself because I knew I was a problem too. I wasn't,
Yeah.
him, but I had my craziness.
Yeah.
I had my what is it called when you crash out?
Yeah.
I think that's what the young kids call you,
Yeah.
crashing out. That was me. Like
Yeah.
I was that young girl that would get drunk and it would just if I got super drunk, it was bad. Like it wasn't fun anymore. It was
Yeah.
just chaos. And I knew I had to fix myself, but I also had to
Mhm.
look back at my trauma. And that's
Yeah.
something I didn't deal with.
Mhm.
So I knew, I was like, I know I want to um, get over this and I want to heal it, but I can't do it looking for love,
Right.
looking for substances.
Yep.
And also because I was hurt so much from that
Yeah.
relationship that I was like, okay, like I want to like focus on myself. So what I would do early mornings, I would walk in the park by myself
Mm.
to get connected to nature.
Yeah.
And I would just, because I would have all these racing thoughts in my head, right? Because
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm so angry, or like
Mhm.
this, or why did this happen to
Yeah.
me? It wasn't my fault. And I think around 24, I learned to like forgive everyone,
Yeah.
everything. And because I would had so much anger, it would eat me. Like I would remember going to bed crying, just be
Yeah.
like, I want these thoughts to stop happening, or
Yeah.
like oh, or I would blame my parents too.
Right.
I'm like, this shouldn't have happened. But then I look back and I see this happened because that happened to them.
Yeah.
So it's this cycle, and I was like, I have to stop this because this is not the
Right.
way to live. And I made those connections
Yeah.
during when I was on my own.
Wow, this is also inspiring because as you're saying these things, I'm like, damn, there's so much relatability because we're pretty much the same age. I just turned 31 this year, and everything you're saying, I'm like, I've experienced myself being in a 10-year on and off toxic relationship. And I said the same thing when I left. I'm like, this is so messed up. And as much as I want to blame the other person, like, what is wrong with me to even put up with all of this shit and become this person? So I took about 3 to 3.5 years being single. And I'm like, I got to be alone. I got to go within. I've got to accept all the things that I went through growing up. And I'm so proud of you because you're a cycle breaker, girl.
Yeah,
And
it
it's
has
not
to be like that.
easy. Yeah. And it's not easy. And as you're sharing more and more about yourself, I'm like, I would have never known. Like, I know on social media, we've like shared comments with each other, and I posted certain things that I can tell you were really feeling it. And now that I'm getting to know you more, I'm like, I could see why. And a lot of it is the relatability to you even transforming your whole life and becoming this awesome individual and being in a happy, healthy relationship and being an entrepreneur. So you should be so proud of yourself because there's a lot of people out there that it's hard for them to take that step. And being a cycle breaker, like it ain't for the weak because you have to let so much stuff go.
Yeah, but I want to tell everybody, like,
Yeah.
don't hold on to that. Like, believe me, you carrying that baggage from like years ago, and I know it. Like a lot of people experience sexual abuse.
Right.
A lot of people experience physical abuse and,
Right.
psychological as well.
Right.
But learning to forgive, because there's no reason to hold on to that anger, because that anger doesn't produce anything.
Yeah.
You're just so angry. You're like, oh, I just
Yeah.
want to be by myself, or
Right.
do bad things, and it's not the way to funnel things. And I want to say this because I know if I had someone to tell me this at age 16, that would have stopped me from hanging out with the bad people,
Right.
because I felt that because bad things had happened to me,
Right.
that I might as well just hang out with the bad people and do bad things.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what usually is what will create the mess.
Yep.
And like you said, it's a cycle.
Right.
And seeing my aunt, my parents,
Right.
their suffering, and them not forgiving them,
Mm-hmm.
forgiving themselves or the parents,
Right.
also brought light to my eye. And I'm like, oh, I don't want to be 50 something
Yeah.
and still hold on to anger.
Right.
Like I want to show people, yes, you could heal. And
Yeah.
it does take time. It does take time.
Right.
But that journey is way, way better to do it, to start and do it. Because look, you could start doing it today, and then a year from now, you'll be this much better.
Yeah.
Even if you're just this little thing,
Right.
that's way better than being at square one.
Right. And then you mentioned a year, but I'm sure that the moment you forgave who you needed to forgive, because I felt the same way. I was like, there was two people at one point that in my heart, mind, body, and soul, I just hated them. And I was like, I can't carry this around as positive as I am. I'm like, these two people like get to me, but I'm like, they don't have control over me. I have control of who I allow to like consume my heart, my emotions, everything. And I remember when I finally let them go, like that moment was so freeing. It was like I had to write it down, I had to talk it out. But ultimately, it was telling them to, like, you know what, I forgive you for all the shit that you've done because I understand you've gone through some things, but I just don't want anything to do with you and I wish you the best. And that just felt like a freaking heavy rock that was pushing me down, like right off of my shoulders.
Yeah.
How did you feel once you were able to forgive the people that you just held in your heart like hatred towards them?
I felt like I was free.
Yeah.
I felt that I didn't want to blame myself for being at the wrong place, wrong time. So I had two different situations that I experienced sexual trauma.
Okay.
First was from ages 6 to 8, and then I experienced it at age 19. And those two things, it was the same thing. I was like, oh, well, I didn't do anything wrong, and I was in the wrong place, wrong time. And it's like, especially with the childhood one, it was a family thing, and they said, oh, don't speak about it. Like we don't want the rest of the family to know.
Mm-hmm.
So we're going to keep it as our family secret.
Right.
And just so you know, this happened to everybody here. So it's not kind of really a secret, but it's our secret.
Mhm.
And I don't want people to look at our family and be like, okay, don't like, to judge our family.
Right. And how
And
did
that's
that
not
make
a,
you feel?
oh, I was so
Yeah.
angry. I was so
Mhm.
angry because I was like, you guys are a bunch of hypocrites.
Yeah.
Like, how dare you
Yeah.
say this and then talk about church?
Yeah.
You know,
Oh, girl, yeah.
so at that age, actually, that's when I got rebellious against religion.
Yeah.
And they weren't religious, but my aunt would go to church.
Mhm.
And she was always like, you guys, you go to church and stuff. But I
Yeah.
was like, I don't want to go to church because I want to go be with your type of people
Right.
that do this. So I had like this blamehood against that.
Yes.
And, as I partied and so forth, I was
Yeah.
away from God,
Mhm.
everything.
Yeah.
And that happened to me at age 19, and even more anger because I was like, great, man, like,
Yeah.
God must really not exist.
Mhm.
And these bad things keep happening to me,
Yeah.
then I'm just a bad person.
Mhm.
And fuck it. I'm going to hell. I'm doing this. Like, but then you realize you start doing bad things,
Mhm.
and hell is not as exciting and fun as it is.
Yeah.
It's bad.
Mhm.
You see, bad things, and you really get to see what evil is.
Right.
And that's like, whoa, 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 whoa. Like, okay,
And it
I'm
could
bad,
always
but
get worse,
I'm not that
Yeah.
bad,
Mhm.
and I don't
Exactly.
want to harm and do that. So I'm like,
Right.
okay, well, I don't want to carry this thing and turn into that
Yeah.
because I'm not that. So I was like, okay, there needs to be a point that you could forgive
Right.
and learn from it.
Yeah.
And just like going back to your
Mhm.
point about just feeling free, yeah, it just felt like chains, everything that I had was gone. I was like, okay. And then maybe like around 26, that's when I was like, I'm so happy all of this happened to me
Yeah.
because now I could talk about it and
Right.
also talking about it,
Mhm.
right? The first time I talked about it, I think I was 22 years old
Yeah.
and I was breaking down at a restaurant with
Which
some
is normal.
random
Yeah.
lady. I was like, and
Yeah.
she was like, this happens to a lot of women and
Yeah.
men. And as I started talking about it, you start really realizing how much this happens to men and women.
Right.
And it happens a lot in childhood too, and
Right.
families and parties or people going to religious things. And
Right.
it's something that shouldn't be hitting under the rug
Right.
because it's taboo or it's
Yeah.
bad. No, like you need to bring it up to the surface,
Yeah.
take care of your kid, and make sure that person that did danger doesn't come around,
Right.
and report them.
Absolutely. And I love that you're sharing all of this because I know it's hard sometimes for us to be vulnerable, but there's so much power in that, like you owning your story and being so healed that you can easily talk about it now compared to when you first started expressing yourself about it. And something that I've been thinking of as we've been talking, and you mentioned God, you know how you said you had that transformational moment from living the party life and doing all those things to then having that career switch. Would you say there was some sort of like divine or godly guidance that you're like, I have an eye opener now and I'm ready to change my life?
No. I think I
Okay.
realized that. I think, as I
Yeah.
look back, that kind of maybe was
Mhm.
the leading way.
Yeah.
I didn't believe in anything until like even the higher power of the universe
Yeah.
until like I was 26.
Okay.
I thought all of that was just me, my hard work,
Yeah.
me. Um,
Which a lot of it is, right? Because I know a lot of times many religious people put their faith in like, oh, I'll let God handle it. But then we need to put the own willpower in ourselves to like move forward with our actions and our body and our mindset and our words.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
it's that, but it's also, um, once you get out of your head and start
Right.
being selfish,
Mm-hmm.
because I was remember like the way I got to where I'm at in the beginning, it's because I wanted to prove people.
Right.
I was like, I had all this anger. I feel like, oh, no one's ever
Yeah.
gonna step on me, or no one's
Mm-hmm.
gonna bring me
Yeah.
down. I'm not ever gonna have a guy that controls me, or
Yeah.
do this, or I'm never gonna get hurt again.
Mm-hmm.
I just had like imagine just like this kid just full of fire, just like
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But I was going to feel all that energy now and work instead
Yeah.
of doing chaos.
Right.
But as you start, to realize it's like that's not the way to live or to be,
Yeah.
always like, all right, I want to prove people wrong. It
Right.
shouldn't be like that. It's like, okay, you need to look at what's around you, enjoy the moment, be present,
Yeah.
and love, not just be in your head, be worried,
Right.
think about tomorrow, think about what you're gonna get out of this.
Right.
It's being a collective. And then that's when I was like, oh wait, hold on, there's a universe.
Yeah.
Because I think, there's a higher power. And I'm like, there
Mhm.
has to be a higher power because
Yeah.
I've seen so much bad, that bad exists,
Right.
that the opposite must exist.
Yep. I love that you're sharing all of this with us because when people see us online, I feel like they don't really know stuff. It's like, if you know, you know. But there's so much power in you sharing these stories because it just shows the woman that you are today through all of the struggles that you went through. And as we're talking about like God and a higher power, what would you say your beliefs are now if you want to share? Like, where does Rocio stand today with like beliefs? Because as you mentioned, you had a bad notion towards religious because of your experiences, which I can relate to you 100%. And to share a little backstory, something that got me away from religion was I had a friend who was in the fifth grade and she was Muslim and she was dying of cancer. And my grandmother said, you can't hang out with her because she doesn't believe in what we believe in. And she ended up passing away.
Hmm.
And I didn't get the opportunity to say bye. And we lived very close to each other. So I was like, you know what, Grandma? Like, if this is what religious is and it separates me from people that I love and want to be with, then I don't want to be a part of that. So I totally understand having that negative notion. Now I'm healed and I'm like, it's still something I've never tapped back into, and as I mentioned to you earlier, I'm like, I respect everyone's religious beliefs, but I'm so curious if you're open to share, where do you stand with that now today?
Oh, yeah. Well, I came to Jesus.
Mhm.
And I didn't come to Jesus as, like people like, oh, I was, they come here.
Mhm.
I was going through some stuff. And
Yeah.
actually, um, I'll share this. I'll make a post about this, but I was losing my hair. And then like I was 29 and I was about to get, I was in that, I was, yeah, I was about to get married. It
Okay.
was like that month.
Mhm.
And all of a sudden my hair just started falling out. And, people were saying, maybe it's the stress, everything you've been through, blah, blah, blah. But
Mhm.
I'm like, it just started falling out of nowhere.
Yeah.
And my business took a financial, and I had invested money into crypto and it all went down.
Mhm.
I lost thousands of dollars. So it was just really bad. And, I didn't think about God, didn't know about
Mhm.
God. And I remember my mother-in-law, rest in peace,
Mhm.
she said, hey, I think you guys should go to church because you guys are all
Mhm.
stressed out. And
Yeah.
I was like, all right, let's go to
Mhm.
church. And I walk into a Christian church in
Okay.
Pomona called Rios de Agua Viva.
Okay.
And the first thing we talk about was love, forgiveness. There's this father that loves
Mhm.
you.
Yeah.
And if you believe in him, and just saying about forgiveness, and I'm like, oh, that same thing again, forgiveness.
Right.
And I was like, okay. Then I started going a couple of times, and then they talked about baptism and being saved and being forgiven
Yep.
and what God is. And I was like, whoa, 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 whoa. This God is completely different from what I thought God was, when I was a kid.
Yeah.
And I was like, maybe because I never gave God a chance.
Right.
And, I started going to church. I got baptized, and
Yeah.
it's been a journey. And it's just been like, oh my goodness, like, where have you been my whole life? Like,
Oh my
this whole time, like,
goodness.
I didn't know you
Huh.
were there, but it's like,
Mhm.
no, I just didn't accept him.
Yeah.
I was so involved in my trauma and my
Right.
selfish and my things. But then I look at the stories in the Bibles, and it's like, well, God uses people such as myself.
Yeah.
So I remember, I think the pastor was talking about like, hey, if you have been abused, you've been robbed, you're the robber, you're the
Yeah.
bad guy, you're the guy who from criminality.
Right.
God actually uses you guys because He wants to show people that they change.
Right.
And I remember, I was like, oh my God.
And I love this because even as you speak about it, you seem full of life with it. It's brought you so much
Oh yeah.
peace, healing, happiness, and a rebirth from what you thought you knew and from what you only knew at that time to a whole new world of, you know what, this is beautiful. This is helping me. So I'm really happy to know that. And it's another form of empowerment in community. So I'm sure you gained a lot of empowerment by being around the people at your church. Would you say they're, supportive of like your entrepreneurial endeavors, like your personal growth? How has that community shaped you?
It's definitely knowing the faith, because when I first started, I didn't have never opened up the Bible. I
Okay.
had never prayed. I didn't know how to pray.
Yeah.
So I remember like being in class, and I would listen to people like, what are they saying? Like what? And I thought it was
Yeah.
like, maybe I need to repeat what they're saying because I
Mhm.
didn't know. And then you learn like, oh no, you just need to talk to God and
Yeah.
ask Him. It's like a relationship between you and Him.
Okay.
And I was like, oh, okay. But definitely the faith behind it,
Yeah.
and also praising God when things are bad and good, because
Mhm.
like you just can't love God when things are all good and hate Him when things are going bad. It's like, no,
Right.
like now that you accepted Him, he's your father and he's going to lead you. And that's what life is, right? Like
Yeah.
we're all going to go through pains and struggles,
Right.
but it's us to be the person to lead
Yep.
and to be the person that shows love and shows up with love.
Yeah. And I love that you mentioned that. And I can tell that you're full of love, which leads me to when we talk about women empowering women, how would you say women can show up differently in this field? Because have you come across a lot of other women that are in the same field as you and have like not collaboration? Or would you say that women in your field have been very collaborative and empowering as you give that love and light?
Actually, I would encourage women to try out the insurance business because I feel like
Okay.
there's not many women in the commercial side.
Okay.
And if there is, I would say, yeah, there are collaborative, but as women in business, I would say definitely, collaboration is way more better than competition. Because
Right.
competition is that you're going against this person, but in reality, it's always you versus you.
Yeah.
So, like, if you're always worried about what your enemies or your other
Yeah.
business partners are doing, like that's not going to take you anywhere
Yeah.
because you don't want to be a copy of them. Like
That's
you are
true.
you, and if you're not happy with yourself, then change something.
Yeah.
Because when people are like treat other people bad, it's because they're unhappy themselves.
Yeah.
So it's like okay, you have to look back and maybe sometimes take accountability.
Yeah.
And for older women, because when I was in the industry, I didn't have that mentorship. Actually, I was mistreated from the older woman because I don't
Yeah.
know, because I was younger
Right.
and they felt they were in their 50s and
Yeah.
60s and
Maybe threatened and jealous
yeah,
by your
because the youth,
youthfulness. Yep.
yeah. So I definitely did feel that they were
Yeah.
like I couldn't ask them for help. They would be really bitchy to me.
Yeah.
They would
Dang,
do
that is
things.
not nice.
No, they were not nice, and they would like if I made a mistake, they would go
Yeah.
up to the boss. And remember, the boss would be like, "You guys are like it's
Yeah.
crazy,"
And it's like unnecessary stuff, right? When they could be a loving, loving and helping hand as you are, and empower one another instead of
Yeah.
doing all that.
And I would say definitely for women, see things as a mother, especially if
Yeah.
you're the leader. That's what you are.
Right.
Like, and also, when I was growing up, I was kind of always in that mentality of like, how can I be like a man? Because in
Yeah.
my life, men were always the dominant men. Like, I was even like, I remember one time I was like, if I was born a man, life would be easier for me. I
Mhm.
wish I was a man. Maybe if I was a man, these things would have never happened to me.
Do you still wish that now?
No,
Okay.
no, no, no.
Yeah.
It's actually easier being a woman, 'cause you grow up and,
Yeah.
men have it a lot harder, especially growing up.
Right.
There's different societal
Yeah.
things. But be able to, whatever God made you and
Yeah.
however it is, and definitely, when it comes to people ask me about if I'm religious, like yes, but I don't believe in religion itself.
Got it.
I encourage people because at the end of the day, I care more about your heart.
Yeah.
So whether you are heterosexual, homosexual, whatever, that doesn't care about me. Whether you're red or blue or non whatever,
Yeah.
I don't care about that. I care more about your heart and what you're gonna do. Because for me, I love the versatility. I love encouraging people that love and whatever it is that you want to love, go ahead, love that.
Mhm.
And I'm all about just what's in your heart
Right.
versus what money you have,
Right.
what degrees,
Yeah.
where you come from. That doesn't matter to me.
Absolutely. And I can definitely see that through what you post on social media. And mainly, I've learned so much from you now by having this wonderful conversation with you. And you've touched a lot of wonderful topics and a lot of tips for people to really understand like, you can go through a lot of shit. You can choose to be a victim, or you can accept the things that happen and be like, you know what, this happened to me. It was out of my control. I was a kid or I was a young adult going into all these different things, but there's always a way out, whether it's through faith, through your own willpower, and, even being in that toxic relationship to now being married and having a beautiful relationship. And you've given so much amazing advice and your wisdom today here. What would you say are some final motivational words for aspiring Latina entrepreneurs, whether it be in general or for your specific field?
For females, don't be afraid. Even if you don't have a dad, don't have a male role model, don't have anyone to back you up or money, like do not be afraid to take those first steps because I came from Santa Ana. And then I was raised with my aunt. We had no money, we had nothing. But I had all this grit to succeed and the wish, the faith.
Mhm.
So if you just have that, that's all it takes, man. Everything else will come.
Yep.
And, if you are inspiring to do that, look for help. Nowadays, there's so many resources, so many connections. Social media has made it so available for
Right.
us. So definitely for the young woman, take advantage of that. And for everybody,
Yep.
I always say every day is a new day. So you don't have to be the person you were yesterday.
That's true.
And holding grudges for people who are in relationships, don't
Yep.
hold on to that.
Mm-hmm.
Like if it's a mistake that someone did, forgive them. Obviously, unfaithfulness is a whole different topic. But like if someone's not picking up the trash,
Mm-hmm.
someone's not cooking for you or
Yeah.
whatever, talk about it.
Yeah.
Don't let those little things add up
Right.
where you holding on to it.
Yeah.
Just talk about it. Everything could be taken care of from a conversation.
Yeah, that's true, through communication, because once those little buildups happen, a blow up happens
Mm-hmm.
when it all could have been avoided through compassion and communication. I love that. Now, before we end, I always do something with guests that's called Elevate in 60. So the goal with this is answer each question under a minute, which is 3 questions. Are you ready, girl?
Okay, let's do it.
What is the Triangle Hustle podcast about?
Triangle Hustle podcast is about construction, safety, and faith all aligned together to be able to show people that you could come out of the darkness into light, into business.
Ooh, I love that. I'll make sure to tag your podcast and everything as well. Second question. How do you close a "let me think about it" response when trying to make a sale?
So is there anything else that I could answer for you besides, is this the price or is this something else? That's how I would target it.
So kind of go like through what's stopping them and then working through that.
Yes.
Love it. And for the final question, what's a goal you have for 2026?
Learning to get better on my cooking skills.
Ooh,
So
okay.
I've always been a business person. I've
Mhm.
never focused my time on developing that side of me.
Okay.
And last year I was like, you know what, I need to do this because I want to be able to cook for my family and do better meals than just
Mhm.
meal prepping.
Okay.
So,
Oh, I absolutely love that. Do you have any final messages that you want to share before we close out?
if there's anyone you need to forgive, forgive them.
Yeah.
Do it today. Don't hold on to it. And thank you for having me.
Of
Valaery.
course.
I felt this is a great episode and maybe a
Yeah.
little bit of my own like therapy for myself.
Yeah, I know. As you were
So-
talking, I'm like, there's certain like pauses or breaths that you would take, and it just felt so freeing. So I'm super proud of the woman that you've become. I know we barely know each other, but I feel like I learned so much about you today. And again, it's so powerful, and you make it look so easy and effortless. But there's so many women out there, Rocio, that they're still stuck in that toxic relationship. They're still lacking the personal development and that confidence to just take initiative and really build a life they love. And I'm happy to see that you've done that you accepted my invitation to be here, and I appreciate you so much. So with that being said, everyone, the episode is now coming to an end. Please make sure to like, comment, share, and subscribe to the channel. Make sure to look at all of the links below because I'm going to put Rocio's contact information like website, email, her podcast as well, which is called the Triangle Hustle Podcast, so that you can learn more about her associates that are on there as well, right? And any other information. So feel free to reach out to us. Look at the links below, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye for now.